Sure, appreciate it. As always, really appreciative of the coverage that we receive from you guys daily, and you know, I know our players are excited about getting back started today. It's great to be back. As we head into practice number one later today, I know that you know, our message has been simple. As we entered into our team meeting yesterday, anything and everything that took place a year ago, we've ripped off the rearview mirror, and it's moving forward only. I'm really confident that that we have this strong foundation. You hear me talk a lot about the foundation, and I've said it before, we've had the resources to build the foundation, and what we want to do now is take the next step, which is to elevate. And the reason that I feel good about the foundation is when you have a strong foundation, it allows you to bounce back. And to me, that's the key for this group of young, hungry, talented players, as well as a veteran group of players that knows what it takes to get this program back where we all want it to be. I love the makeup of our coaching staff. I know I had the media out to my house a couple of days ago, and you guys got a chance to hear firsthand from the experience, from the mentality of what this coaching staff brings. They bring a tremendous amount of energy, a tremendous amount of detail. And from a development standpoint, I've already seen the fruits of having some of the coaches that we've brought in about how the guys work this summer. There's a real excitement in our building. There's obviously been a lot of change within our athletic department. I know my boss, Jim Smith, is here today, and as I've said before, there's a tremendous amount of alignment, and there's a newness with the energy of bringing in and having the type of change that we've had. I can't wait to get out there today. I really can't. To see just, it's kind of like Christmas in August, as I usually call it. And I know it's July 30th, so you guys will say that I'm a little early, but it's Christmas time for us as football coaches because we get to find out just what kind of team we have, and then we get to start building the culture that we'll need to get us through a really tough season. But with that said, it's time to go to work, and I'll open up for whatever questions you guys have.
You guys can raise your hands. We're going to mic to you. Please say your name and outlet. I know I have some new faces to share, so I appreciate that. We'll start with on your left, Gene.
Hey, Mike, Gene Wong, The Washington Post.
Gene, what's up?
Hey, at media day in Vegas, you talked about the fracture in the locker room and that leading to, among other things, a sign outside the locker room saying leave your designer accessories behind before coming in. And beyond that, just how do you avoid those pitfalls this season to make sure they don't impact winning?
Well, I think the big thing is lessons you get from, and it's from winning and failing. And you know, sometimes when you say things, I mean, you guys hear the parts you want to hear, but I think what shouldn't be lost is that, as I said, the rearview mirror's been ripped off now for us. It's what I said a week ago. Our team reported yesterday, and what I'll tell you is that we have a foundation that we've built over the last 6 seasons, and this is year 7 for me. And with this type of foundation we have, the bounce back for me is the part that we're focused our energies on moving forward. I think our players understand. I think we understand as the landscape has continued to evolve that we just have to be ready to pivot. And, you know, if I were to take a lesson from it, it's kind of like I always talk to you guys about being a parent. As a parent, to be a good parent, you have to anticipate things. I didn't anticipate it, and that's the part that hopefully you heard. But now that I know about it, as I've said before, we've done things and we've put people in positions to where I don't feel like we'll have to deal with those types of issues.
And back to on the field, where do things stand as far as quarterback room goes? And when's the optimal time for you to decide who's going to be the QB1 when the first snap for real?
As we've done this dance before, Gene, you and I,
Yes.
we will know who our quarterback is on Sunday before we start preparation for game 1. We will know. You will know when we walk out and the guy that takes the first snap. Because there's a lot of things that come into play, and I can tell you that to stand up here and say that I know who the guy is, I know I got a room of really talented quarterbacks, the 3 that really shined for me, Justin Martin, Christian Martin, Malik Washington, all similar skill sets, all similar builds. We only need one genre of offense with this group because they're all very similar, and I'm really excited about looking forward to the competition that I'm about to see here in the next 25 days.
Hey, Coach. Sam Jane, Baltimore Sun.
What's up?
I was wondering, you talked a lot about change, you know, with your boss coming in, a new boss coming in, changing college football, changing how you kind of approach the program now, taking a more pro-style approach. How are you handling and kind of processing all of this change as you enter year 7?
Probably a lot like you, Sam, going from a student reporter now Baltimore Sun, right? Right? First year, man, let's go. How are you handling it, right? Well, I grew up in change. I grew up in south side of D.C., and change was every single day for me. So I've lived in that wheelhouse. It's something that I'm used to. Maybe some people around here aren't. Maybe you guys aren't. But I know a lot of the type of guys that I recruit tend to be similar to me in personality. We embrace it. I'm excited about change. Change is a good thing. Especially when you have wisdom and you bring in people that understand what we want to get accomplished. There's a tremendous amount of alignment, and that gives me comfort.
Can you just expand a little bit? You talked about kind of wanting it to be a pro-style approach this year, but then also kind of separating the idea of making money and the differences and discrepancies and how much players are making and leaving that at the door. How are you kind of handling the idea of, like, we want this to be more pro-style, but also expecting players to, once they walk through the door, really leave all, I guess, the ancillary pieces behind?
All right, you're a pro now. You're working for the Baltimore Sun. When you walk in, you discussing your salary with your counterparts? Probably not. So those are the life lessons that I have to start teaching that I didn't have to teach a year ago, that I didn't anticipate teaching. Imagine an 18-year-old whose scholarship has been the same as everybody else's for the last 100 years, and now all of a sudden there's a difference in those scholarship checks. Those are the things as a parent I should have and needed to anticipate. But what I'll say is this is the new landscape. When you start paying people, they become pros. You're a pro. My players are pros because they are being paid. The difference is I have a moral compass. I know my boss has the same moral compass, that we're in the business of educating while teaching them how to be pros is the first step for us. And handling that part is easy for me because I didn't get to be a pro. And because of the degree I've earned, I'm able to be and do the things that I do. And there's the moral compass that we have as coaches, as teachers, as administrators, that, yeah, they're pros in their respective sport, but we still have some development to do as people. And that's where my energy and the things and the experiences I have to lead from the front with those things.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? Isaiah Woodley, Fox 5 DC.
Isaiah, man, what's up?
Nice to see you. Nice
Good
to see
meet
you. Hey, nice to meet you too. Hey, so Coach, new coaching staff coming in this season. You talk about your buddy Pep Hamilton on the defensive side of the ball, Ted Monachino on Pep Hamilton on the offensive side of the ball, and the defensive side of the ball, Ted Monachino, and on special teams, Coach Powell. What are you looking to see from those guys as you're looking to turn the table for next season?
Yeah, I think the big thing when you bring in the experience that we brought in, I learned under Coach Saban that it's really important that even though you bring new people in, what we do is still Maryland's intellectual property. We're running Maryland's offense, Maryland's defense, Maryland's special teams. And those guys, much like I was able to do when I came in as a coordinator, are able to put their personalities on what we do. And I think if you've studied those three and you look at what Pep has done, his time at Stanford, his time at Michigan, and I said this before, if you were to just take his picture and name off the resume and you put it in front of executives that hire head coaches, you'd have a hard time not hiring Pep Hamilton. And I think the other side of it is the Ted Monachino and his experience at the NFL level in a system that is very complementary to what we've done, the genre of defense we've played, but maybe some added value that he brings in because of the experience. And, you know, he's got a young group of outside backers. If there's been an Achilles heel for us on defense, it's being able to generate pass rush without adding people. But then the biggest hire for me, and not that it's more important than the other two, but for me, being able to hire a full-time special teams coordinator with the experience and pedigree of Andre Powell and Dre and I have worked together before. I've competed against him. His experience, you know, we have to, because of the type of athletes, the type of players we have in our program, I have an expectation that we should play special teams better, and I expect Dre, with his experience, we've added Chili Davis to the mix with him, another full-time guy that's all their energies are on special teams, and as we've seen, special teams generate a tremendous amount of momentum in games. And with those two and their experience, you put those three together, I think, as you'll see as we progress through camp, that that experience have allowed us to elevate.
Got it. And yeah, Coach, you're talking about the new landscape of NIL. You're talking about bringing in Jim Smith. What is his impact on this program, especially with the NCAA offering $20.5 million to pay your athletes? How do you feel about that, and what's the impact of Jim Smith on this program?
You know, I love the hire. Obviously, those type of things happen above my pay grade, but I got a lot of respect for the work that Jim has done. You know, you look at his pedigree, he knows what championship level looks like. He's won Major League Baseball championships. He's been a part of Ohio State, which probably has been one of the blue bloods in college athletics a long time. And much like myself, having the opportunities to work under people like Nick Saban, to get a chance to work under an administrator that has built pro models, because we're in an area where we need to maybe think outside of the box. And I know from the conversations and the communication that we have, which is pretty much on a daily basis, there's a tremendous amount of alignment that this area could be a very fruitful area in real NIL. And we've got a guy that understands that market, and I'm looking forward to working with him to create the value that allows us to keep these top players right here at home.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
George,
Hey, Mike, George Gerber,
G,
Washington
what's
Times.
up, G?
Good to see you, Coach. You've had a lot of, in recent seasons, past seasons, a lot of known commodities at different key positions, quarterback, wide receiver, and running back. Is there something maybe even refreshing as you kind of go into this camp that there's a lot of guys that you know that you have on your roster that maybe other people aren't aware of, or that are going to get playing time for the first time in this league, in the Big Ten, in a tough schedule, that can show something that maybe other people don't know about? And is it freeing for you as a coach to kind of maybe build that up as opposed to having institutional people at those positions?
Yeah, and that's the part, you know, I like to speak in code, and I try to message in code. And when I talk about being excited about the unknown, we have a lot of people that people haven't scouted, didn't scout, can't scout, and they're going to mess around and find out, per se, because we have recruited really well. They're young, and we've played young. You know, I heard Hal Hunter describe how in his 30 years of NFL coaching, he's always coached a rookie tackle, a rookie guard. And so to me, that's where when I talk about being excited about the unknown, is because we inside the Jones Hill House building understand that we have some talented players. We've seen them all summer. We've seen their development, their growth. We've added pieces to the puzzle for this year that, again, when you start paying people, we expect results now, and we're trying to expedite their growth. And the type of coaches that we've hired and the systems we've put in, I think will allow us to play some of these young players and allow them to grow. There'll be adversity, there'll be failures, they'll make mistakes, but what I've learned is that the really talented players, they don't make it often, and they don't make them a second or third time. And so the unknown is a good thing for us going into this season, and because the story isn't written other than what you guys think.
I'm a Kafir inside the black and gold.
Mehd, what's up?
Coach, good to see you. Going to the receiver room, I know obviously Octavian Smith feels like we blinked and now it's year 4 for him. So how do you feel like you've kind of seen him step into that leadership role, and then Jalil Farouk being a wise product, you know, transferring into the program where he's able to close out his career? Yeah, I know obviously you have 25 practices ahead of you, but just what's the excitement and getting a local product to kind of anchor that room?
You know, and that's the landscape. You got a guy that's been developed like Octavian Smith, and then you've got a new guy that I have a strong relationship with, have known since he was a 8th, 9th grader, playing running back for the Bowie youth football program, and Jalil Farouk. That's where we are, and that's the part that's exciting for me, because I always say the portal giveth and it taketh, and you know, we were able to bring in a guy like Jalil Farouk and his production. He's a guy that's produced, you know, 3 straight years there at Oklahoma, talented player that we know a lot about, and then you have a guy like Octavian Smith, who was a quarterback in high school. Most people recruited as a corner, and we see him develop into where he's, you know, one of those guys that's leading that receiver room, and a guy that's made plays from the time he stepped on campus. And to me, that's kind of how the sweet recipe for how Maryland needs to be, where we build it with the foundation of these local high school players, and we've done that the last couple of years with a couple top 25 classes, and then you add value through free agency, the portal, whatever you want to call it, by bringing in guys like Jalil Farouk that see the value of what Maryland has been able to do in terms of putting players and developing players for the next level.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
What's up, man?
Simon with CTV News. I know you touched on the quarterback room earlier, and I know you said they all have similar builds. You want to make sure you run the same genre of offense. But as far as one of your specific quarterbacks, in Justin Martin, I was wondering, what do you feel like he can bring to the team? He was ranked at the top 20 player at his position. So what do you feel like specifically he brings to that quarterback room?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Justin, is his experience. Even though it's not a full resume just yet, the fact that he's taken a snap under center, he's the only guy in that room right now that has done that. And because of that, as I oftentimes talk about from a quarterback or from any type of player development, you got to fill the toolbox up. And he's a guy that has seen some of the defenses in this conference a year ago. A super talented guy, was a highly recruited guy out of high school, so not new to being under the lights per se. But I also see a ton of humility out of the guy in that, some guys come in and they come in with some of the baggage or some of the attitude of, hey, I'm here, and he really has worked hard to kind of work himself into our team and into our family concept in every part of it. Socially, I look up on Sundays and he's at church, sitting right next to me at church and walking up afterwards, and I didn't know he was there. But he's been that kind of a get for us. He's been really good in the quarterback room. Even though there is a competition, those guys are really close, and it starts because of the relationship with Pep, who spent a lot of time dealing with those type of quarterbacks. So I think Justin's experience is a plus for us. I think the fact that he's an older player that kind of has been under the microscope, which play in that position here tends to do for you, and I think he's prepared to compete to do that.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Noah, what's up?
Part of the new landscape that you've been speaking about in college sports is players being able to transfer even within their own conference more now, and I'm curious if you think we'll see that trend continue, maybe just because of the familiarity coaches have with players that they've gone up against, and what's it going to be like, for you going up against a couple guys that you're pretty familiar with this year?
Yeah, it's what happens at the level above us. They play against their former teams. They have their motivations, their whys. Well, so do we. We take pride in the name on the front of our jersey that, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that when guys leave here that I block them, I don't follow them. I'm kind of petty with that, but it's just how I operate. It'll be interesting to play against former players. I've done that before. It's not a first time, but it's the landscape. You do things systems-wise. That's why you'll see us huddle a little bit more, because we've been a no-huddle team that uses a bunch of signals that now all of a sudden you got guys spread all over the conference that know things. So anticipating, like a good parent should do, we'll mix and match our tempos. But, every year is a new team. I think we're not the only ones dealing with it. So other teams will have new players as well that we've got to figure out, and that they'll have to compete against some of their former players. And I think it makes the game more fun. Gives us a little competitiveness that maybe wasn't there.
Mike, does the revenue sharing plan of up to $20.5 million, does it give you more leeway in terms of how to field a roster, and does it perhaps level the playing field, particularly in the Big Ten?
I don't know if you've heard, but yeah, we limped to the finish line waiting for revenue share. As I code, I told you I talked in code a year ago. I said revenue share is a good thing for Maryland because it closes the gap between what we had a year ago to what we'll have moving forward. And to me, that's a good thing, because I think if you look at the way we've recruited, the way we evaluate, the system that we have in place for acquiring players, having the resources to do it. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you we lost players because maybe we didn't have enough. But what we've done, and what, again, instead of sitting around crying about what we didn't have, we've chosen to say, hey, let's focus on the high school recruit. Let's get some of these talented players that are now maybe being overlooked based on people going to the portal, and that was kind of our wheelhouse and our space that we lived in for the last 2-3 years, and it's been really fruitful when you look up and you see guys like Jalen Gilchrist, Malik Washington, Zaire Mathis, some Zymir Smith, some really talented high school players that will be thrown to the deep end of the pool per se, and to kind of teach them fast.
Dave Preston, WTOP Radio in Washington. No black guy this year.
Thanks for the red wine. The red wine suggestion.
Yeah, next year we'll get you something from Virginia.
All right.
For Kippy and Buffy. Now, Malik Washington arrives on campus with a lot of fanfare. Regardless of whether or not he is QB1 on August 30th, what sort of things do you look for from him from a growth standpoint? Where do you want him to make strides this season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with any position, and not just the quarterback position, is just what you said, making the strides. And typically the way you make strides is by failing. And so we've got to put guys like Malik in positions in practice. You know, it's almost like you read and hear about Tiger Woods, how he throws the ball into the sand trap and deliberate practicing one of the toughest shots there is. Well, we've got to create that environment in practice the next 25 days for all these young guys so that we can maybe get some of the failure, we can build some of the experiences that they will be able to lean back on. That's been a great benefit for us having a guy like Malik here early, is that we went through a spring with them, having some of these really talented high school guys. We've been able to get them some of the experience that hopefully will allow them, when they do make mistakes, to bounce back from them a lot quicker.
And I think last year you added a few assistants on the, to coach the offensive line, and the importance of that, especially with all the new parts that you have coming in on a year-by-year basis. How do you feel that's paying off?
Yeah, it's paid off well, and it was a suggestion Pep made to me about 5 years ago. You know, Pep and I have always been really close, and you know, when I studied what the NFL had done, and you look at, they've got 2 and 3 line coaches, and you know, in college we hadn't gotten to that point, and when we were able now to hire analysts that can coach and do some other things, it allowed us to have guys like Brian Ferentz here to help with the development of some of these young old linemen that a year ago you didn't get a chance to see. But unlike being on a scout team, reading a card from a DB guy that's showing you, we had a guy over there coaching those guys every single day on the scout team about the fundamentals of those positions. And that's kind of what, when you look at the way staffs are built, to win in a Big Ten, there's no doubt you have to be really good up front. You have to be able to run the ball. You have to be able to stop the run. And everybody knows we can throw the ball and we know how to create explosives. But to line up in 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, get tough yards, be a tough team, that's where adding guys like Hal Hunter, who working closely with Robo, and bringing Pep on board with, you know, his Battle of Gettysburg's mentality of putting a bunch of people in there and let's just be a little physical. And I think that's the type of camp you'll see us have as we try to build our program to compete in November.
Hey, Coach. Michael Howes, the Diamondback.
Michael, what's up?
You mentioned the foundation a little bit earlier. Going into year 7 now in College Park, kind of where would you say the program is in comparison to where you envisioned they would be at this point when you first took the job in 2019?
Yeah, that's a unique question that I've thought about often, because when you look at a year ago, it makes you question and ask yourself the tough questions. And, you know, I doubt that there'd be very few people that have been around here since I got here in 2019 that would have a hard time saying that the program isn't better than it was when I got here in 2019, because we all know what I walked into, what we've been able to build. We've navigated COVID. We've done something that hasn't happened here in 130 years in Maryland football. And then the goalpost shifted with the landscape. We've pivoted, navigated. There's been change. That's the newness that keeps me really excited about what this year brings, because, you know, I see this year being a year of elevation. I see this year for us, because of the foundation that we were able to build over the last 6 seasons, that'll allow us to bounce back quickly.
Hey, Mike, Jacob Steinberg with the Baltimore Sun. You mentioned earlier in response to George's question, just for you, one of the biggest things is the excitement of the unknown. For these younger players in particular, I recognize it's early and it's day 1, but just going back to the spring, what have you observed from them about the eagerness and excitement level to just show off their talents and, you know, become more recognizable for the people outside of this program?
Yeah, you know, I always use this analogy of throwing a snake in the crib with a baby. That's what it's kind of been like for me, because they don't know what they don't know. They haven't been conditioned, you know, based on experiences in games of how good the type of teams they're going to face. And so that eagerness for them to compete is why I'm excited. I mean, some people see it as a negative. I see it as a really positive thing, because, you know what, I don't know, but the people we play don't know either. What they're going to see or what they're going to face. And it's my job and our staff's job to create structure and boundaries that allow these guys to excel on the field and bounce back the way we want our program to bounce back. Can I get D one question? Man, D been raising her hand. D got shut out from going to Vegas. I saw that they didn't give you credentials. She's super positive.
I appreciate that, Coach. D loves sports here. I just had a question on, you talked about anticipation and preparation. When it comes to NIL, when it comes to that, what the tools did you use to educate yourself to be able to have those fruitful conversations with your guys and letting them know, like, we're going to be pro style. You're not going to come in here and talk about, X amount of dollars. What kind of tools, or how did you educate yourself on that?
Yeah, the social equity that I've been afforded, being a part of starting an organization that helps coaches develop to become head coaches, has afforded me to be able to pick up the phone and call guys like Rick Smith, whose son Robert Smith played here. Rick was a longtime vice president of football, GM over there with the Houston Texans. Rick has been on speed dial for me. Being able to talk to the GM Greer down in Miami. He was on the board of my foundation I created. He's one of those guys that when I had questions, I picked up the phone and said, how did you manage your players? We started playing and practicing with the salary cap 4 years ago when COVID hit, and I kind of anticipated that this is where we would go. I got their salary cap. You had Brian Griffin here and then Gerald Dixon, who's going to be back here, both with NFL experience, brought their caps in and educated me on how the cap worked. How, the starting quarterback in the NFL, if he's a high-level quarterback, he's going to get close to 18% of the total cap. Hence why you see $50 million quarterbacks. And understanding that, to me, I've always used the ability to educate myself, make mistakes, learn, fail, grow. I mean, those are the building blocks for winning championships. And to me, I utilize the social equity of people I know in the business, being able to pick up the phone and talk to people like those guys. Chris Greer, couldn't remember his name, I'm getting old, but between Chris and Rick, and even talking to Mike T up at Pittsburgh, and how they manage these caps. And then even when you come to the locker room, a couple years ago, there have been a lot of teams that faced what I faced. Most haven't come out publicly to say what I said, but you see it across the college landscape of teams that have had tough years and then bounced back pretty quickly once they've kind of navigated what this new landscape brought to our locker room a year ago. Thank you very much, guys.
Anybody who didn't get to a question, we will have another availability next week, so I'll make that. For now, we have offensive coordinator